I caught him. In my country you need to be both a firefighter and a EMS, and the shifts rotate every few days. This happens because there aren't enough people. I caught too much suicide attempts, but the scariest was a crazy old man armed to the teeth in his house because he thought the daughters were poisoning him to take all the money he had. The weirdest one was a guy we found hanging in his garage with a vibrator stuck on a vise and up his ass with his dick out while porn was playing on a laptop in front of him. My old mate that was a PT for a short while before joining the police again. He was a PXO. I met him and a few other PXOs in the gym, and they were talking about calls they had to go to. 2 of the PXOs reported to a disturbance to a street opposite a college. Reports of banging and shouting, and what seemed to be domestic violence. All I was told in detail was that they arrived to the scene and they heard nothing. They found the front door was shut but the latch was locked in, so it could be freely pushed open. They searched the property and found nothing. Nothing broken, nothing smashed or out of place. And of course, no one else around. They were just about satisfied when they noticed a door. The door wasn't your normal kind of door. It was blended to sort of look like the wall with an every so slight recess, so unless you was looking for a door like this you wouldn't have noticed it. They opened the door and it turned out to be one of those door dividers for a garage. They found a large man laying in what they could describe as a literal puddle of blood. The man had been stabbed 37 times. There was no blood anywhere else in the house except the garage. One of the officers described it as that scene from Dexter in the motel where blood had put into a blender without a lid and then turned on. It was almost like a murder set. Second job was a female and a male officer reporting to a job less than 5 minutes from my house. My mate rang me asking where I was, and I said I was at home. He told me to look out the window, and I saw a police helicopter. He asked if I could see it. When I told him I could, he just told me to stay home. That night I found out some kid had his arm cut off from the midway point on his forearm. The cut was down with a meat cleaver, and the person doing it was attacking someone he thought had had a fight with his brother. He got released from prison and the first thing he thought to do was steal a moped, steal a meat cleaver and chase these kids around trying to attack them. The female officer telling us about this attack later found the arm. The cut was immaculate. The hand arm was in good nick, however the kid panicked, and in his panic he screwed up the end of his arm. He got it filthy trying to wrap it, and he damaged the end. Apparently the hand could have been reattached. Not me but my friend's story. Friend was called to retrieve a body at sea. Diver was missing for 20 days or longer I think. Found the diver was stuck in a washing machine. The decomposition was bad that you can smell it at surface. When retrieving the body, limbs just pop out and the body felt like jello. Worse is that the smells still linger on my friend diving suit, that it has to be burned. Not me but my mom happened to be behind it and my deceased father responded to it. As a FD photographer, my mom has this phobia of driving behind a vehicle with a ladder on the roof. She got this after one day she was driving behind a van with a ladder, and she felt unsafe, so she moved out from behind it. Truth be told, the next stoplight the ladder went straight through the windshield of the car behind. Apparently she went to help the person, but saw no blood, and what looked like a hairy soccer ball in the passenger seat. The person was decapitated instantly by the ladder from the van. My husband was named for a couple years, responded to a call for a doja, and the guy had been there for a while. He had, they assumed, fallen dead and fell into a dresser, so he was pressed up against it. When they lifted him for the coroner, his face ripped off and stayed attached to the dresser. He said even the most seasoned ones were gagging. Close friend of mine, who was a paramedic, attended a serious traffic incident with multiple casualties. His ambulance arrived at the emergency department, and a junior doctor ran out to meet them. My mate said to the doctor, "Go check on the other arrivals first. This one is dead." The doctor got all stroppy and pompous, telling my mate, "I'm the doctor. You don't tell me if a patient is dead." My mate, calm as anything, replied, "Fair enough. Here's the patient, and you'll find his head in the bank under the trolley." The doctor was very nice to my friend thereafter, not mine, but a friend of mine got a welfare check call. They went in, and the old lady had died on her bed and been there for some time. She was decaying, but her skin was still intact, and when they tried to get her off the mattress, their fingers went through her skin and sunk into her body. They all started throwing up at that point. I was on placement for a few weeks when we get called to a car accident without many details. An elderly lady had crashed her car 3 times, and the third time she hit a pole and passed out over the steering wheel with her foot on the accelerator. The cops got there a few minutes before us and were trying to smash the window to get the door open. All of a sudden they start screaming and step back. The rims had ripped through the tires and were spraying rubber into their faces and bodies. As we run up, they managed to smash the glass and turn off the car. The whole interior is covered in blood. We dragged her out and propped her against a nearby wall before cutting her clothes off to look for injuries. We don't see anything until we flipped her wrists. She'd slashed her wrists and driven to try and kill herself. She's half conscious at this point, and the whole time we're treating her she's repeating over and over, "Just let me die, I want to die." We package and transport, and about halfway there she says, "Let me die, I'm gonna die anyway." We asked what she meant, but she went unconscious from the blood loss. We get to the hospital and hand over to the trauma unit before checking her file. She was diagnosed with dementia 2 days earlier. She wanted to kill herself before the disease destroyed her memories. She died 2 hours after admission. It was the first death I had on placement and was very sobering. I had a lot of stories from placement, but the only other one that might fit here was actually from a peer. So my peer was on sick leave for the first week of placement, and the first day she came back she was called to a 2-car collision. A mother and her 2 children, and a father with his 12-year-old son. All 3 children were dead on arrival, but the parents survived. When she got to hospital and handed over, she went out back and threw up before breaking down crying. The whole crew was sent home for the week and given mandatory therapy.